Hello, this will be a little guide on how to make hair in Blender for VRChat, and at the end of this, hopefully you'll be able to make something like this one day. This will just be the foundations of how to make hair and whatnots. There are a million different ways to make hair. This will just be one out of the many methods, so definitely mess around, Google, research, find what you like, and go with that. If you don't know where to start, hopefully this will be a good starting line, I guess. So let's start, right? I'm just gonna delete this, but we see it's all nice. It has all these hairs and bits and pieces, but I'm gonna delete that. I already have my head and my body set up in the scene, and this is kind of important because you want to know the proportions, right? You want to know how far it will go down, how far the body will be from the head, and these curves, you don't want your hair to be like straight down in the body because that would suck and you wouldn't be very happy at the end of the day, really. So we're going to add a plane onto our scene, and we're going to grab this one and then Shift S selection to cursor to make it in line, and we're going to delete that back edge. Now we're going to go back to the vertices, just move that in a bit more, and now extend it out. If you want it a little less extreme, we can bring it in, and I think I might do that. And let's Shift H, and this is our shape. This will be your foundational shape. It will give texture to what you're doing, and it won't, when you're doing like the scalp, it won't be like a swim cap. It will actually be like hair with bumps. But now we have that, we can convert that to a curve. I don't think this super matters, but I like to put it on 1 just in case. And if you're adding extras, it will help prevent too much going wrong, I guess. But we will add a curve, which is a path, change this to 3, and go down to object, and then put the plane in there. Why we're changing the resolution preview to 3 instead of keeping it at 4 is because of the amount of lines. We do not want extremely unoptimized hair that will lag your game. So 3 or 4 is a good middle point. And now we can adjust it to how we want it to be. Now I'm going to click onto that real quick, and you see how these lines here, you can click onto handles, turn those off. In older versions of Blender, it will be in this here, the viewport overlay, but in newer ones it will be next to it as its own little thing. But we're going to click the check button and then move this down so it's not like extremely like in your face. But what we're going to do is move these arrows, hit 180, and make it upside down. So these are going downwards, or you can right click and switch direction, either one you want. But we will exit play mode or edit mode real quick and make it a bit smaller, turn these on, move it closer, and apply transforms there. Now I'm gonna go back to here, but you see how it's kind of flat, you can't really see what's going on. So I'm gonna click onto the object and turn on its wireframe. So that will make it a bit easier for me to manage and mess around with it. I will go through some real quick basics, what I remember. So in edit mode, we're going to have to click Alt S to change its size, width, and then when we use normal S, it's just going to stay that size. Alt T will be how to reset when it's like twisted, and Control T is how to twist, right? So if I click this here and turn this on up here, turn connected only on, and then I scroll outwards to make this twist a lot twistier, then I will be able to select them all and Alt-T and it will go back to normal. So in case you accidentally do too much or go too far, you can always reset it. If you don't want to reset all of them, you can just select the ones that you want to and Alt-T from there. But that is pretty much all the things you need. Control S is to save. So if you ever do that, it's always a good thing. I know I used to do that a lot when I started. But now we have literally the starting blocks. So if you want it colored as well, you can add a color on and change its color. We can go to shading, turn user nodes off, and then just put it as a color, a random color. Feels working. Now we have our first strand. So this is the mother strand, right? We're not going to touch that. That's going to be what we're copying, duplicating off. If we need to duplicate and make a new strand for something, that can't just be duplicated off another pre-existing strand. So we just leave that and we duplicate it to a new one. And we're going to make sure that this is applied all transforms. And if you wanted it to be mirrored, then we can turn the mirror modifier on and then it'll be all happy. You'll just have to make sure to move it inside of the edit mode. I like to put my editing bits on the right side or character left, just preference, but it's up to you what you do. But now, yeah, let me downsize that a little bit. We're going to make a bangs. Let's make some bangs here. So I'm going to start on the side today. So it doesn't really matter where you start off. It just needs to come together in the end, I guess. You can turn the X-ray mode on to see if this fits all nicely. And we'll just move these up here. We can turn clipping on here as well if you need it. But it depends on what you're doing, really. So let me do that. Prevent your camera getting really zoomed in. You can click view and then frame selected, and that will make it just zoom in like this. I have mine, it's not actually this numpad 0, I have mine on Alt and that button, like the little squiggly one line, because that's a bit faster to just like hotkey it, but it's just as easy to do that, right? Let's start. So we are going to want to find out where that hairline is, really, and we're going to want to make sure that's the fringe and this is the back, pretty much. Now with that, we can maybe move it down here, make it a bit bent here, and then Alt S, make this nothing at all, or we can make it a little bit so when it actually is textured, it doesn't just go to a straight point, it still has a bit of stuff, some juice on it. I'm going to move this inwards a bit more, like this, and adjust it so it's a bit nicer. Bring that down, let's move this across. If you want a little indentation, you can do something like this. And then just fix it up a little bit. We'll need to turn that clipping off. So now it's a bump in the middle, and it's still going to be inside of the head when it comes to that. I'll fix that a little bit though. Okay, so it's technically in the head now, and it's all happy. So we're going to continue on the below section. I like to also make it onto normal or gimbal, or like normal or local, and that will show you what direction it's on, and you can mess around with it from there. So there we go. And to make it have a little bit more volume, I can turn this on and spin it a bit. It wouldn't be that excessive, of course, but you know, we do what we do. We can double onto this. So now that we have that set up, we are able to kind of layer now. So I have just duplicated another one, and we're going to just kind of adjust it to be on top, but like not weirdly, I guess. And fold it, and then down here we can move it down a bit and then out a little. We can rotate it the other way slightly so it's a bit more dimension. We can make this start going down. Bring that up a little bit. Bring that downwards like that. And then we have that little piece there. You'll just want to mess around with it until you see what kind of like. I like doing a kind of like something like that maybe, where it's a bit more dynamic instead of just like flat. Now, when we're also doing this, I can just duplicate this and bring it down. Let me do this really quickly. So we have this third strand here, right? We can duplicate this plane that we've made, hide the other so we're not confused, and then we can go into edit mode and duplicate it again, and then just making sure that it's still on this line, it's not like up or down. We can add some extra stuff like this. So that's gonna be good, I hope. And now we can click onto this, go back to the data, and then change the object to this new plane, and see how it is just a new thing. It has that one that we just added on. So if I move that around, you can see it moving. Downside of this is that when you zoom in, it's gonna zoom in with it, and you're not really going to be able to make it look like this, right? It's gonna stick on. So I think it would be better use if it's something like a scalp at the end when you're done and you've converted to mesh. We will need to move them so it's actually in between. Of course, a lot better than this, but it's not like crossing over. That's a bit rough when it does. And you have all the scalp hidden. To be honest, that's already looking not half bad. Of course, you'll need to mess around with it a lot more, but that's a good starting point, I think. And then you can just go on and make your hair. You can mess around with the shape. If you want a circle, you'll just have to make sure that its resolution preview is really low as well, because these can get really heavy really quickly. Let's just move it there, and then let's do that, and then let's do Bezier circle. So that's a whole circle, so you can fill up the back a lot more with that. If you want to edit it, you can. Just move these around. You can extend these and it'll move that shape. But yeah, that's pretty much the basis. Hopefully it's helpful for you. Hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this. If you watch this and you make hair, I want to see it. Show me pictures. I want to see. I love seeing things. But that's the end. Good luck. Show me what you make. Show me the progresses. I want to see them. Have fun.